So in this segment, I want to talk about EU funds, bleak time until money is fully replaced. So this is about Northern Ireland suffering due to the fact that the UK or the Tories haven't replaced the former EU structural funds that Northern Ireland used to receive whilst we're members of the EU, which we've spoken about it before with farmer subsidies, how they've been cut for British farmers or English farmers mainly. So I think it's worth talking about the other aspects of what the kind of EU structural funds actually did give support to you in terms of schemes, because a lot of people didn't really understand it. I think I didn't understand how impactful they were. So the UK may have officially left the European Union in 2020, but Brexit is still making headlines, which is good for me, I guess. And for some community organisations in Northern Ireland, it has left them in a funding limbo. The European Social Fund, which is aimed at helping people who have difficulties finding work, will no longer be available to the UK from March 2023, while the government has promised to fill the void left by the removal of EU structural funds through the UK Shared Prosperity Funds by 2024. So there's a funding gap by about a year. There is still a great deal of uncertainty, and also the fact that there would be a general election in around 2024, which means that a new chancellor, a new government could come in and just rip up the idea that the UK would kind of continue paying the former EU structural funds. You know, it does not look like the Tories have any intentions of covering the former EU structural funds. They've cut the amount that farmers get. Also, there is not much money to do it, not from Brexit anyways. The economy is shrinking, and there is no divorce money. We're still paying the EU for the budget we agreed to when we were members, but also things like pension liabilities for civil servants and former MEPs like Big Nigel. Some groups are concerned they will no longer qualify for the funding, while others are not sure the money will be enough. So essentially they're saying they might not be able to qualify, so they might not be able to get the funds, or there'll be a lot less than what they used to receive. One of the groups relying on the European Structural Fund money is Land-Based Access Employment Limited, AEL, which is a very catchy name, which provides opportunities for people with disabilities to gain work experience and training. It runs a number of social enterprises, businesses whose primary purpose is to address need rather than create a profit, which it sounds pretty good. There's a cafe and a garden centre for trainees to learn new skills. Lorraine Black, who's the head of AEL services, said it was a bleak time. She said they were looking at a £200,000 deficit without the funding in place, and this would mean they would help fewer people and staff would lose their jobs. They have been able to take on 175 trainees in the last 7 years since the ESF funding has been in place. So this fund is good. You know, there is effectively a service that helps to train people that local businesses need. There are things the job centre should really be doing. It should really be there for, rather than trying to constantly bully disabled people and people on universal credit. It can be really difficult to actually gain any experience, so places like this are really important, giving people skills and employment opportunities. So I think this is this service they offer looks pretty good on the surface of it. Miss Black said they offer 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and the service is a lifeline for families. It impacts their families who rely on AEL as a form of respite, she said. There is not enough capacity within the existing statutory services to replace the loss of current ESF programmes, and this means individuals being denied access to support services that enable them to make informed choices about their day-to-day lives and help them reach their full potential within their community. So they offer some sort of advice service as well, which again is very helpful. Getting access to citizens' advice in the UK is very difficult nowadays. It's very hard to get hold of anyone in those groups because they just don't have the funding. Danielle Johnson, who is one of the AEL programs, who's on one of the AEL programs, said he has gained new skills and new friends. You know, he said, if I wasn't coming here, I would remain unemployed, he said, and I wouldn't be able. So Daniel, his name's not Danielle, Daniel. I wouldn't be able to get work without the support of AEL. So obviously, it's providing a great service here. You have Julie Steele, is operations director of the Advantage Foundation, which runs a project called Quest. It provides to young offenders who complete a qualification in employability and gain work experience in the foundation social enterprise mugshots, a print shop which designs, that's an interesting name there, social enterprise mugshots. It puts designs on t-shirts and other merchandise, and you know that stuff, print on demand, things like that, are a lot more popular than they used to be. She said Quest, which aims to reduce reoffending rates by 65%, ESF funded, and 35% are from the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice, another one, has been severely underfunded. There's no way they would cover 100% of the scheme. The loss of ESF funding and the need to replace it with a minimum, the same level of resourcing is the critical issue, she said. The ESF funded projects work hard to ensure that they have positive outcomes not only for the service users but also for the wider community, which is great. This again, another important social service, giving chances to young offenders who without work maybe go back to a life of crime to make money, thus wasting their own lives and the taxpayers' money. These are also schemes backed by former EU structural funds, which seem to be making a difference. It's sad that people really didn't understand how important EU structural funds were to the UK. There's a video, right, of a guy who says, "What has the EU ever done for us?" And he's standing in front of like some sort of wall or some sort of arch or something like that designed. It looked really nice, and it said, "This like wall was funded by EU structural funds." It was hilarious. The idea that the Tories would replace these funds was laughable when they're trying to shrink the state, shrink what the state does. That was the whole point of austerity, which people seem to forget what austerity was all about. It was about shrinking the state, and that's what David Cameron really wanted, and that's what he achieved. But people just don't seem to understand that. And this is more of it. These kind of groups, these organisations offer decent services to people that can really help them. But the simple fact is the government just don't care, and that's it's sad, isn't it? It's really sad. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.